Hey y'all, welcome back to Proficiency in Play. My name's Pip, your Dungeon Master. Today we're taking a look at the first major custom race that I designed for the world of Eos, the inhabitants of the city of Revel, and they are called the Grimal. And they are purveyors of progress, and we'll see what I mean by that in just a little bit. Here's some general information about the Grimal. You can think of them as anthropomorphized catfolk who, in Revel as we speak, they are transitioning from a more natural way of life that cats would use in the wild to the kind of lifestyle that humans have in our world. So you'll see some who still run on all fours, don't wear a lot of clothing, and eat raw food and hunt with their claws in their teeth, and you'll see some who are dressed to the nines, walk on two legs, and speak very civilized. So we're right in this transitionary period of these cat folk becoming more and more quote-unquote civilized, and that actually caused some stress in Revel in the story. There are several subspecies of Grimal. Grimal is a blanket term for all of the cat folk that live in Revel. But there are several subspecies that exist in Grimal, and I designed them to be specialized for specific roles and really fit specific niches in Revel. All are based on real-world catfolk, with the exception of one that's based on otters, which I know aren't cats, but I wanted to use them in my game, and they kind of have a playful cat-like thing going on, so I used them. The lifespan of these Grimal is relatively short, of around 30 years. So they do age pretty quickly, and you'll see that in Revel as well. They prioritize the family unit very highly and the rearing and raising of offspring. Because progress is so very important to them, one of the greatest ways they can reach this progress that they want is by having children and making sure that their children learn. As this generation learns, we pass on our knowledge to the next generation, which will learn and pass on the knowledge to the next generation. So the family unit, and especially children, are incredibly important to the Grimal. And in general, because they grow so quickly, have a lot of offspring, and are quite intelligent, they progress incredibly quickly, which has led to them creating a Industrial Revolution level metropolis in a world that's still stuck in the Dark or Middle Ages. Starting out, of course, we have the Leona. Now, in the podcast, I generally call them lion folk, tiger folk, cheetah folk, jaguar folk to make it clear what I'm talking about. But technically, the lion folk of Revel are called Leona. And these are almost exclusively nobility. They are the kings and counts of Revel. And if you haven't watched my episode 1 follow-along video, which talked about the way Revel is set up, please go do that. Because Revel has a medieval-style monarchy, and the lions believe themselves to be the best of the Grimal kind and the natural leaders. And of course, that makes them the king and the nobility. Because Revel doesn't have much war and is progressing so quickly, though, the leaders have become quite lazy, and they have adopted the most to what we would consider human lifestyle. They exclusively walk on two legs, dressed to the nines like this picture here, and will not be caught dead walking on all fours or eating raw, uncooked food. They do naturally have good managerial and leadership skills, though those skills are becoming quite rusty as they begin to not care much for the other Grimalkin beneath them, and people are not very happy with their leadership. A couple of notable characters in the story so far that we've met that are Leona are Alex, the leader and manager of the arena, and Felix, the king of Revel. Moving on to the Tigran. The Tigran, of course, are based on tigers. Now, this is a picture of a white tiger, like Ike is in the story, but they're also based on Bengal or Siberian tigers, really any tigers. But Ike happens to be a white tiger, and I liked this picture, so I used this one. The Tigron are physically the largest and strongest of the Grimal kin. They're utilized well as warriors, gladiators, and security guards, as they're just big and strong, and they're known to be quite ferocious generally. They value physical prowess above much else, and they're generally more natural and animalistic, especially compared to the lions. Tigers, more often than not, are going to walk on all fours, eat their food raw, and believe that the increased stability and increased technology that Revel is showing is actually weakening the Grimal physically, and that it's not a great thing. While the lions are living it up and living as humans do, the Tigron believe, in general, not all of them, that a more natural cat-like lifestyle will serve them better in the long run. Of course, some notable Tigron in our story so far are Ike, the leader of our party right now and the white tiger stalwart champion of the arena, Warren, the currently missing hero of Revel and highest ranking gladiator, and Victor, who is an old, gnarled Tigron who cares for the animals in the arena. Moving on, we have the Jaeger. Now, the Jaeger, of course, are based on jaguars, and they are refined and intelligent. More like the lions, they believe that tech and innovation and progress and this more humanized lifestyle is a good thing, that this is the future. As life gets easier and easier with the help of better and better technology and tools, the Jaeger get wealthier and wealthier, which is really important to them. They value mental acuity and analytical skills. They're not very emotional, and they're just really, really intelligent. Really intelligent, really innovative, and really entrepreneurial. They are pushing the envelope on what it means to be Grimal, and really the ones driving this shift into a more human lifestyle. Not all Jaeger are cold and calculated, though they generally have poor people skills and prioritize research and science above things like the arts and fellowshipping with other Grimalkin. Some notable Jaegers in our story so far are, of course, the Baron, the one behind all the tech and explosive industrial revolution of Revel, and Mark, the socially awkward, albeit relatively kind, Jaeger accountant of the arena. Moving on, we have the Panthera, which are based on black panthers. Now, the Panthera are beautiful and creative. In stark contrast to the Jaeger, they value beauty and art and people and emotion very highly. And so you'll see them more in places like the theater, in customer service spaces, and they're often warmer, kinder, more sociable, and generally just seen as beautiful and loving and nurturing in Revel. Some notable characters we have that are Panthera so far are Alice, the Baron's secretary, Olivia, the star of the main stage theater, and Melody, the doctor at the hospital who serves with Mortimer. Next up, we have the Velocity, obviously based on cheetahs. They are specialized in speed, as you might expect, and they value the individual quite highly. And what I mean by that is not the idea of the individual. They value themselves. They're relatively self-reliant, and they value people that they know and the individual skills of individuals that they know. They're less concerned with the class system. They're less concerned with the overall hierarchy of Revel. Whether you're a Tigron, a Leona, a Jaeger, a Velocity, a Panthera, it doesn't really matter to them if you're good and upstanding. And that's what I mean by they value the individual. It's more about the individual person and less about the general stereotype of the race that person comes from. like cheetahs in real life, they are quite small in stature when compared to the other big cats, but they utilize their speed and their small stature when things like stealth are important. They'll often be found in jobs like the police detectives. Now, not so much the police enforcers. You would expect to see the Tigran there, but we've already met Lena, a Velocity detective, whose speed and stealth and investigative skills are really important. They're also utilized well as messengers and are some of the few Grimal who regularly leave the city of Revel. They're very, very curious, very inquisitive, and always want to figure out what is going on. Some notable characters we've met that are Velocity are Mortimer, the religious expert and doctor at the hospital; Holly, who is a quick but lovably dense assistant to Victor in the arena; and Lena, the aforementioned detective; also Cyril, the journalist and editor at the newspaper in town. Last up, we have the Tauren, which are based on sea otters. Now, I know that they're not catfolk, but I wanted some that really specialized in the water, given that cats like fish so much, but they don't like to swim all that much. Now, some big cats do swim just fine, but there's a generalization around cats not liking the water. So I made the Tauren to be based off of sea otters and be really great seamen and fishermen, sailors. They provide a lot of the fish for Revel, all of the fish. The Tauren are some of the most specialized. They live almost separate from Revel and are entirely fishermen or sailors. Now, the Tauren had a place of great stature among the Grimal when the slave trade from across the sea was of big import. But as that has kind of fallen out of fad in Revel, the Tauren have seen themselves drop among the ranks in the class system of Revel, though they are still valued for providing the fish. They are small, even compared to the Velocity, and quite playful. They don't concern themselves too much with the fact that they've fallen in the hierarchy, as it doesn't really bother them very much, and they just enjoy the simple things of life, swimming and fishing and family. Some notable characters that we've met, if you've listened a little farther, this is actually going to release before we meet these characters, so a little bit of a spoiler, I guess, are Giuseppe, who is a crackpot outcast that we'll meet, and Giovanni, the lighthouse keeper. So keep your ears out for them and know that they're Tauren. And that's all of the Grimal subspecies that I have. And we'll get to know the Grimal more and more notable characters of each type. But I wanted to give you guys the rundown on the generalizations of who the Grimal are and what it is that they value. Thanks so much for listening. Remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any upcoming videos. More deep dives like this, as well as in the works character spotlights for all 4 of the player characters, where I sit down and interview the players and we talk about why they're playing the characters that they are and get to really pick their brain about the design of their characters and what they want to see out of their characters' growth in this game. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.